Hey, this is Gerd Handel, and welcome to the Inner Light Project. This show is for anyone who's wanting to lead a happier, healthier, and enlightened life. Create more self-love, inject more joy and abundance into their daily life. Join me for inspiring interviews and spiritual topics so you can shine your inner light. Hello and welcome to the Inner Light Project. My name is Gerd Handel, and today I'm just so excited to share with you someone who is helping people to release trauma and blocks. Winnie Chang Wang is a licensed acupuncturist that specialises in releasing trauma from the body. She's the author of Honouring Darkness, Embrace Shadow Work to Nourish and Grow Your Power. Hi Winnie, I'm so grateful to have you in the show and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm so excited to share myself with all of your audiences.
Oh, bless you. I can't wait to share with them about your journey and, what your life was like before you became an acupuncturist.
Yeah, so it's really funny because I spent the first 37 years of my life just completely disconnected from myself.
Wow.
And, it's really funny. I never meditated a day until I was 37. And I really think that life's greatest challenges, the biggest pain point, the darkest moments, is actually when we get to discover who we really are and what is our life purpose and what are we here to do, right? So in 2009, I was giving birth to my second daughter when I had a spinal injury during labor. And it was really scary because I came home from the hospital and I cannot sit for 10 minutes on a chair.
Wow.
And you can imagine how scary that is. But at that time, I wasn't loving myself. I wasn't into self-care. And all I thought was, am I breastfeeding my child around the clock? Am I taking care of my firstborn, who is 21 months at the time? I just kept thinking about other people. For example, my first daughter, she's never been without mommy. And I just kept thinking, oh my God, is my daughter traumatized that mom disappeared into the hospital for 2 days? And, is that traumatizing to one day just wake up and have no mommy? Like, does she understand what's going on? And I can't really explain to her that I'm at the hospital giving birth, right?
Yeah.
And so all of my life, I spent worrying about my children and also holding grudges, about a very judgmental person, critical. I inherited that from my mom. So I was always judging now my ex-husband, everything that he did wrong and holding grudges. And so the first spinal injury, 1 year after I gave birth, when my child is finally sleeping through the night, I realized that it's like I am now physically handicapped. I can't do what normal people do. And it was really depressing, to have a curved spine. Suddenly, I can't do the same physical exercises that I used to love. And because I also wasn't into healing at that time, I just kept feeling anxiety and depression really, really bad. I think leading up to, when I had my spiritual awakening in 2017, I literally would cry every day and sometimes 3 hours a day, just completely in despair and darkness and hopelessness. And then I was in this near-death car accident. I remember what happened is I was still holding grudges, at my then husband. And I was always worried about everything that can go wrong about my daughters. I'm like, oh my God, does my daughter have something to sit with at school? Is she popular? Do people like her? It's like my people pleasing tendency just projected onto my daughter. And so at the moment I have a car accident, I really thought I was going to die. And I thought, oh my God, I just wasted my whole life holding grudges like being angry at things that are in the past and worried about things in the future that hasn't happened yet, I haven't lived in the present moment.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I was like, okay, if I can do it, have a do-over, I'm so not gonna do that. And that's when I started doing meditation and finally started talk therapy and like getting, Reiki and like all of these things. And I'm like, okay, like I'm given a rebirth, if you will. It's like I've already died once, like I'm not going to just waste my life and being angry and fearful. I'm just going to be in the now. And so I started having all these spiritual cultivations. And then, I had a divorce. And right up to the divorce, I was, your regular healer that's just like love and light, love and light, love and light.
I understand.
And okay, so it's really funny. We should laugh about this because I would even judge people. Like I would judge my husband, at that time. Oh, you don't meditate, you have low vibes. Okay, like if you don't chant mantras, you have low vibes. And like I can't talk to people who have low vibes. Like if you don't meditate and you don't chant mantras, we can't hang out. I had like way like ego problems and I was spiritual bypassing. I think I'm better than everybody else, right? And it's really funny because then, bam, I had this divorce and like my ego was totally crushed. I'm like, what do you mean I heal people with love and light? I am just as full of darkness and BS as everybody else. So that led me to countless dark nights of the soul when I was just up many, many nights thinking, oh my God, everything that I ever saw or blamed my ex-husband for is also in me. If I think he has anger problems, I have anger problems. If I think he is selfish and always think about himself, then I am selfish and always think about myself. If I think he's judgmental and always telling me what to do, then I am judgmental and always telling him what to do. So basically, in that moment, I have like the next layer, awakening, if you will, where I realize I am just really like my fart smells as bad as everybody else's. It's just like, I'm just like everybody else, like there's nothing special about me. I'm just like everybody else. And that's when I wrote the book, Honoring Darkness, Embrace Shadow Work to Nourish and Grow Your Power, because I realized so many of us just think that we're better than everybody else. We think that, we walk around being so judgmental of other people. That's because it's easier to see what's wrong with other people, right? And the opportunity is to use every person as a mirror, right? So if something triggers you about another person, chances are you have that too, and you get to meet the monster. You get to do the shadow work at resolving that which is in you, right? Yeah.
Wow. I'm just blown away by the journey. It's so fascinating because like I really understand where you're coming from, because for me it took having a cancer scare at 25 to wake up. And I think sometimes it takes a big like aha moment for us to realize like we have to change, we have to evolve, and it is a rebirth. And I don't think people realize it's not just one rebirth you have like several rebirths in your life.
Yes.
And they each one is a different layer, like you're getting lighter and lighter as you go up. And yeah, I had the same thing at 2012 it was. And I remember saying to myself, if I don't change now, like I'm not going to be here. And I can really hear you with what you're saying. And then I went on the whole love and light. Oh my God. Like, and then you start to see like not everybody is at the same pace as at where you are. Some people might not even be at that stage in their lifetime, but that's okay for them. That's what their journey is. And it's learning to accept that there is no wrong or right way of living life. It's what's you're supposed to do for yourself and what you're here to do that's important.
As you said that just so deeply resonated with me. And what I have come to the conclusion is that every human being is doing the best that they can.
Yes.
And if they are not meditating or purifying into the highest version of love and light, have compassion for them, because maybe they're not financially as blessed to have the resources that we did to go to the yoga class. You know, I in my area, I find that it's predominantly white women that are in the yoga class. You know, there's significantly fewer Asian and Black women in the yoga class. And it's the same true with any of my spiritual cultivation and classes. It's actually, you know, I'm Asian, I'm not white, but I'm very privileged to be born, you know, with money to take yoga and workshops and not worry about the money.
Mm.
What a privilege it is that I have the means to go learn meditation. And so instead of me like kind of feeling this superior complex, oh look, I'm all this, it's like, oh my God, like how can I share myself and what I know with the world? And so like one of the things I want to do is go on podcasts so I can share a lot of things I've learned, and you know, do have a YouTube channel, do TEDx talk. I'm always on Facebook and Instagram, just constantly sharing my journey and my latest download, because basically right now I do this work purifying 24/7. And I just love to share myself with the world, because, hey, you know, if you don't have the financial resources, it doesn't mean you can't heal. It means that you get to maybe follow me on Instagram and, you know, and listen to your podcast, and you
Yeah.
guys can also elevate. You know, I love what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear what you're saying. It's so true. There's always a way around it, even if, like you said, it is a privilege, you're right. But there's always a way to tap into your higher self. There's always a way to always learn something, whether that's podcasts, things online. There's always tools and techniques to be discovered. But the key, I feel like, is to really listen to yourself and ask, am I ready to heal? I think a lot of people are afraid to ask that question.
Exactly. You know, I am doing a really deep purification in my anger, because a lot of women, we are told that we have to be nice girls. And we
Yes.
put on this like nice girl mask, and we're not allowed to get angry.
Mm.
And so a lot of the anger is buried so deep that I don't even have access to. It's really funny because so in traditional Chinese medicine, we say that anger is stored in the liver,
Yes.
and liver opens in the eyes. So literally, I had one client, you know, she Yelped me and found me on Yelp, and she's like, "Hey, Winnie, can acupuncture help with my eyes? You know, I have decreased eyesight for 3 months." I
Wow.
said, "I don't know how much acupuncture can do, but if you want like all of my magic, then let's go." You know, no promises. And you know, so what I did was shadow work with her, you know, okay, so what was the most angry thing that happened to you 3 months ago at the onset of your eyesight problem? And she told me, oh, because like I was having a fight with my sister, and then she set boundaries of me, and I felt abandoned, and I got really angry at her because who is she to get to decide whether we talk or not talk, you know? And so I said, okay, here's an opportunity. Do you want to be right about being a victim, that your sister set boundaries and you feel abandoned? Or you want to forgive her? And by the way, also forgive yourself, because you must have said something that made her upset to set boundaries with you. And then you can have your eyes back. Do you want to be right about being a victim and hold grudge? Or do you want to forgive her, forgive you, and get your eyes back? And she said, I want my eyes back. I said, good choice. In one session, her eyesight fully recovered.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I don't get to claim credit for that, because as a healer, I don't get to force my clients into forgiveness, right? Like if you don't choose forgiveness, I can't help you. You know what I mean? Like you have to decide that I'm not going to be a victim of this boundaries and abandonment. And, you have to let go of that victim story. And this comes back to the point where not everybody is ready to heal.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, okay, well, do you want to heal or not? Do you want your eyes back or not?
You know what? It's so true what you're saying, because when I went on my journey in 2012, somebody upset me beforehand, I'd be like, how dare they treat me this way, and get really riled up and not share how I was feeling. And it just stored and stored in the body. And then in 2012, like, it's so hard to pinpoint it, but like, I was misdiagnosed, and I heard a voice saying it's time to heal, and then I ran out of the hospital crying, and that my results were negative, thank God. But then I just went on this journey of like deep forgiveness for myself. It was more for myself than anybody else, and like anyone that had hurt, upset me, I just let it go, because I was like, I get to choose how I live my life now. And it's so true what you're saying, like the bit about the eyes. Like, she had a choice between having her eyes or not. So it's about choosing yourself, learning to forgive yourself, learning to accept yourself, learning to let the anger come out, because you're right, as women, we have been told to be, the people pleaser, the sacrificer, the good girl, dress this way, smile this way, don't show your anger. And if you do show your anger, you're then punished. And I think it's so important to release the anger, because when you feel it, you release it, then you're able to heal it.
And what's interesting too is in the traditional Chinese medicine, we say that menstrual blood is related also to the liver system. And, whenever I have clients with, breast cancer, or they have fibroids or cysts, the first thing I want to do with them is look at the really deep rooted anger that you don't even know about, the really suppressed anger.
Wow.
And so it's like double whammy. First, you tell us we have to be nice and not lose our temper. So we are not allowed to express our anger. And then every month we lose blood, the blood is actually stabilizing. And that's why, some women, they get a little bit moody around, their menstrual cycle, right? Actually, it's perfect. You know why it's perfect? When you're moody, it's because you cannot keep your nice girl mask on. I always say whenever I am menstruating, I'm like, oh my God, I'm the most psychic, like, like in my spiritual power, because, usually I would be holding on to my nice girl mask, and I don't, call people out, basically. But, when I'm on my period, I can't contain myself, because literally I'm letting go, right? The blood is coming out between my legs. So I have no ability to keep my bullshit together. So it's like, if I see bullshit, I call bullshit. And so actually, we need to celebrate when we're getting our period, because that is when the truth comes out, the absolute truth come out when a woman is bleeding.
Wow. That's so fascinating, but actually it makes sense, because we're shedding and letting go of the past and feeling our feelings. Yeah. Wow. Wow. I never thought of it that way, actually, just thinking about it. Wow.
And it really, makes me cry a little bit when I hear women who think menstruation is something like a bother. Like, I can't go work out at the gym, or, like I want to take these birth control pills, so I only get my period every 3 months.
Wow.
I mean, bless their heart. If that's the life that you want, that's great. But as a society, we're so, masculine, because we've had thousands of years of patriarchy where we value accomplishments more than, the feminine principle, which is resting and having this internal dialogue or meditation. There's a reason why God made women bleed once a month, and it's so sacred, this menstrual blood. Whenever I get my period, I'm like, yes.
Thank you. Oh, that's so fascinating. That is, I just want to go back to something actually you said about, the anger in the body.
Yes.
It's so fascinating because so I had a kidney problem back in 2015. So about 2014, I was just getting like a lot of tiredness, like pains in my sides. And I actually went to an acupuncturist and they said to me, there's too much heat in the body. And I was like, what does that mean? Heat? How do I do this? And then they gave me some herbs and recommended some stuff. But it all makes sense now. I'd already been on my journey for so long, but there was stored anger that I didn't know, the repressed anger. And it was about the patriarchy, how women are mistreated. And so when I discovered that I had a kidney defect that I was born with and I didn't have a clue about it, I ended up saving my kidney. I didn't want them to take it out. So I ended up saving it and they just operated on it. And I had so much emotion after it, old patterns came up, things that I hadn't I thought I'd let go of came back up. And it was the biggest, I call it my biggest blessing, if I'm honest. I was able to release so much ancestral, cultural, society trauma that I had about women and my own journey and within my own family of women, and really tapped into the wisdom from within. And some people think, oh God, what? You're happy about having an operation, but actually the operation helped me to surrender more and listen to myself and be patient and be kind to myself, which is something we're not really taught about as women to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's like everything is a gift. And I just want to share that in traditional medicine, the fear is stored in the kidney. And when somebody is born with a kidney defect, it's really ancestral. You have ancestral karma around fear. So that really means that either your mother or your father or both lineage has a lot of fear. And if
100%.
if you go one layer deeper, the reason why you have fear is because you don't trust yourself. And you don't trust yourself because you don't know that you are a divine light being. So basically, when people don't know their divinity, they're disconnected from, you can call it their source light. They don't know that they're going to be okay, right? Like what I always teach in my classes is a bird rests on a branch, not because it trusts the branch not to break, but it trusts its wings and its ability to fly, right? So the bird can relax and close their eyes and sleep on the branch, because if the branch breaks, the bird doesn't trust the branch. It trusts its wings and its ability to fly. So what happened is, somewhere in your ancestors, they got disconnected from their true power.
Yeah.
And so then they thought that, oh my God, they're probably disconnected from the spiritual realm, and they just struggled in the human world. I once worked with a client, she has arthritis, and she had this really weird relationship with food. It's like if she has seafood, and then she has to eat it. And then she also, have arthritis. And, of course, so bones is also related to, the kidney element and system. And there's a lot of fear. And it turns out that, in her lineage, they went through some famine where their ancestors felt like, okay, it doesn't matter how hard I work, we're still going to go hungry. And this is the part where I'm really nerdy. So I read the Bible every day. And I also study Taoist, Buddhist, Hindu. I'm just an MIT nerd that really loves to learn and read. So, in the Bible, it says that when we experience things like famine or COVID, it's really actually an opportunity for us to pray or go back to God's kingdom. Because when you reconnect to the spiritual realm, you are instantly saved. And I want to share this example. So earlier this year in June, I got COVID.
Oh, wow.
And my blood oxygen level actually went down to 88%. Now, 90% is when you're supposed to call ER and go get a ventilator because there's not enough oxygen and you can have brain damage.
Wow.
So because of my spiritual cultivation, in 5 minutes, I brought the number from 88 to 98. So if it's above 95, then you're healthy, right?
Right.
So really, when I feel like I'm really tired, I'm coughing a storm, and I feel hopeless and despair, it's not because God gave me COVID to punish me, but God says, hey, Winnie, come back to my kingdom. And so I'm like, okay, God, like, I'm dying. And please, like, rescue me. Hello, hello, SOS. And so, in 5 minutes, like, just a miracle happened. And I want to say something too. So in traditional Chinese medicine, grief is stored in the lungs. And so basically the reason why, I got hit so bad with COVID was because the divorce was fresh. And I haven't fully processed all of the grief for 19 years together with like the rock in my life.
Wow.
And, like there's a part of me that's still holding on to the grief. And so I literally had to coach myself like I coached my client. And I'm like, Winnie, do you want to be right about being a victim that, your rock of 19 years decided to abandon you and not be in a marriage anymore? Do you want to be right about being a victim? Or do you want to live and just let go of, your story and your label that you're a victim and all of that stuff? And I'm like, you know what, God, I see why you have to give me COVID, because I need to move on from this divorce. I need to overcome my grief and like come back into your kingdom, And so that's what happened. I just said, God, I'm ready to let go of my divorce and my grief story. And then, and then 5 minutes, and then I was back.
Wow. I have no words right now. That's so powerful. Congratulations on the rebirth, I guess I would say. Yeah, the awakening. Wow.
Yeah. It's really, really funny that the reason why we suffer is because we don't trust God's plan. And I say the word God, but you can call it the Tao, the source, the universe, it's really just a higher power. I'm not like trying to, push any particular tradition on anyone. We are spiritual beings. And relationships come and go. These cancer cells come and go. There is one thing that is eternal, and that is our spirit. So when we realize that I am not my divorce, I am not a victim, I'm not my grief, when I'm ready to let go of these illusions, they call this in Buddhist. So the Diamond Sutra says that everything that we see, every phenomenon is an illusion. Everything is a dream, right? So attachment leads to suffering. Yeah. So if I'm attached to my body, it's going to lead to suffering. If I'm attached to not getting wrinkles, well, then I'm doomed. Okay. If I'm attached to having relationships that never end, that's going to cause suffering. So really, everything is an opportunity to help us discover who we really are.
It's so true. And I just wanted to go back to something you said earlier about my lineage with fear. It's so fascinating you're saying that, because explains why the podcast is called the Inner Light Project, because I woke up after the operation seeing that we all have a light within. I have a program that's called Infinite Trust. Trusting yourself, but also, which is kind of freaky but makes sense, so my mum was a nurse and she worked in the kidney renal unit.
Mm.
So I always linked it to that, just that, oh, maybe it was like, the energy there and there was something going there. But I do believe in the fear energy. Like I've released it all and stuff, and I can see a lot of what you're saying, where it came from. I see that now. But it's so fascinating what you're saying, that it can be deeper than what we actually know, and it can be handed down through generation after generation, and we're here to heal that.
Okay, thank you for telling me this key information, because something that we don't realize is everything has karma.
Mm.
So, for example, if that person is supposed to die with a kidney disease, but then, whether you're a doctor or a nurse or an acupuncturist and you save that person, then it's possible that it's kind of like, think about karma like a bank account. Okay. So
Yeah.
like, let's say they have $100 in debt and they're supposed to go, but then you save them. So if you're not connected to God, then it's almost like you have to take some money out of your bank account to pay down their bank account, right? So,
Wow.
there's a reason why doctors and nurses, they don't live really long lives. If you look at this, like, especially in Western medicine, a
100%.
lot of the doctors, nurses, they experience burnout, and, they just can't do it. And one of my teachers says, you just go look at the massage therapist, a massage therapist that's been over 7 years, they've taken on so much of other people's stuff. If they don't wear protection, or they're not in God's kingdom. So here's the thing, like, when I first started acupuncture and I wasn't, as strong as I am now, I would pick up dark entities in my body all the time.
Yeah.
And so what really protects me is my connection to spirit, right? So for example, what that really means is I'm not paying down their debt, but I am praying for them. Hey, God, please give us unconditional love and mercy and grace, and, please shine some, positive money, and God gives us forgiveness loans, right? Think about it. Like in the Bible, Jesus says, you're forgiven. Now stand up and walk, or open your eyes and see, right? So
True.
really, if that person can, go back into God's kingdom, then I don't have to use my karma bank account to help them heal. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's really interesting, this story with your family.
It's fascinating that you're saying that, because what I've sensed and tuned into is that mum, obviously being a nurse, working the kidney renal unit, she was dealing with dialysis and things like that, where people were at the end of their kidney journey.
Yeah.
So I felt, this was just me personally, and like you kind of more or less confirmed it, which I felt for years, is that maybe with some of her patients, she absorbed that energy and it got transferred into me whilst I was inside of her and she was looking after her patients. That's kind of how I saw it. And she may have absorbed the energy and she didn't know how to protect herself or release it, like you're saying. And
Yeah.
I'm now doing that in a way with like the work that I do. But when I work with a lot of heavy energies and, but I know how to release it. So it's not absorbing onto me. So that's kind of fascinating what you're saying.
Because think about it, the patients that she was taking care of has a lot of fear. They're about to die, right?
Yeah.
So if she feels bad that her patients are going to die, then she's also catching the fear of her clients. And then, then that fear is like breast milk fed into you.
Wow. Wow. What I can tell you though is, so I had the operation, then I did have kidney disease, but me being me, trusting my intuition, I started following like a health protocol and I reversed it in 7 months. So I know anything is possible.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like, it doesn't matter if you have stage 4 cancer. So my teacher, Dr. and Master Jigang Sha, he just healed the stage 4 cancer in 3 weeks.
Wow. Wow.
It's really, are you ready to ask the spiritual realm for help, basically?
Yeah. I see what you mean. Because, yeah, that's kind of what I did actually. I just said, like, universe, God, just show me the way, show me the answer.
Exactly,
I will do
exactly.
it. It's so true. When you have no more, like, eventually you will get tired of the medical system because they don't understand the energy. They don't understand that the body can heal itself. And when you have no more resources, that's when we look from within. That's when we trust in the higher power or God or universe, whatever you want to call it. And I think people just don't know that, do they? Like, they don't know that they have that side as well. And it's, if they knew that, my God. But that's why you do what you do, right?
You know what I've come to realize is that if you really, really, really believed, then miracles can happen. But there are also a lot of people who are spiritual bypassing, who think that they believe, but actually they don't really believe. I see a lot of people manifesting like, oh, I am abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm health, I'm health, I'm health. And they're just chanting these positive affirmation. But, I'm sorry. It's like some people, they get cancer and they refuse chemotherapy. And they think that if I just chant mantra, they can heal their cancer. And, I'm the perfect example, which is like, I don't know what I don't know, right? Like I think I can chant mantras, but then I still have really heavy negative karma. Right? So that, it's like in the beginning, I thought I know everything, and then bam, I have a divorce, right? It's just kind of like, what part of my job is also opening people's heart to Western medicine, because I do see people who are like, okay, I can't stand science. I don't believe in wearing masks or getting vaccinated or chemotherapy and all that. And, my stance is God created scientists. And, God also created healing miracles. So why not trust everything? Like, why not open your heart to everything, right? Why not chant mantras and get chemotherapy? Like, why close your heart to something that is already there? Why suffer longer? Just, like, that's the thing. When I had COVID, I was actually traveling. And if I was in the US, I would just take Paxlovid. I was like, if I have access to meds, just give it to me. Like, I'm not one of those healers that says I don't pop pills. I will pop pills if it's available, but like I'm on an island. I have no pills, So I also want people to not think that, science is less than spiritual healing. It's like, just open your heart, open your heart is really opening your heart to yourself. Like, be a lover of science, be a lover of spiritual healing, be a lover.
Yeah. It's so true. Because then the door just opens and it's the unknown. And the more you trust in that, the more you learn. Yeah. Can you tell us about your book, Honoring Darkness, Embrace Shadow Work to Nourish and Grow your Power?
Exactly. So basically, I am a nerd with 4 science degree,
Wow.
and I'm also a professor. And I just thought, hey, can I write a Bible on shadow work where if people just followed, these 10 steps and did these exercises at the back of each chapter, they will have a really good foundation of their darkness,
Mm.
right? One of the things that I see a lot is people have talk therapy, and I love talk therapy, but like 20 years later, they're still in talk therapy.
Yep, yep, I agree.
It's because there's no direction, there's no curriculum, there's no structure and discipline. It's just like, oh,
Mm.
well, how was your week? Right. And then
True.
I'm like, okay, like, can I create a structure and a discipline? So let's start with looking at these top 10 shadows so that at least you're familiar, you have the language to talk to your talk therapist. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because if you don't even know what they are, how can you transform it?
Yeah.
Right. So awareness is number one. And the other thing that I realized is it's very hard to do shadow work because your ego is not going to let you look at how you suck, basically. But because, I wrote about my childhood trauma, rape, divorce, parental alienation,
Wow.
like basically really, really dark topics.
Wow.
And when you watch a movie or when you watch Netflix, it's easier to cry for the other person on the screen because that's not you. You see what I
Mm.
mean? But then in a
Yeah.
way, you're also relating to the character in the movie. So at the same time, this is a textbook, but it's also like a Netflix drama because every chapter the plot thickens.
True, true.
Yeah. So you're like, oh my God, wait, that happened to her, that happened to her. So it's almost like you can almost read it like a thriller, like, oh, what's gonna happen to her next? What's gonna happen to her next? And she just descends deeper and deeper into her darkness. And how does she climb out of all that darkness?
Mm.
So the book in itself is really great. And one of the things I realized is that it's not safe to do shadow work alone.
Yeah.
Because what if you get stuck in the dark tunnel and you don't know how to get out, right?
True.
So the best way to do shadow work is either one, you go to a talk therapy or a life coach where they are trained to do shadow work. So that's private one-on-one. And two is you have some kind of group coaching where you gather in a community and there's like a facilitator that can hold the light and take care of you.
Mm.
That's the thing. It's like you want to have somebody hold the light while you journey in your darkness.
Yeah.
And then the third way is if you are, a spiritual being. So for example, you have a relationship with Jesus and you can just call on your guides. And this is literally what I say. I said, okay, Jesus, hold my hand and don't you dare let go of me for a second, because right now I'm going to journey to the part of me that is really angry at God. And it's really funny because actually what I find is that the best experience is the third way. you know
Mm.
it's the most peaceful because every time I do that, I end up in the greatest peace. Like I experience this magic from a higher dimension. Because, the only reason why we have shadow is because of duality, right? Light and dark, right and wrong. And so we humans live in this 3D. We get triggered and angry because there is separation.
Mm.
But once we go to a higher dimension, it's just oneness. So a lot of the times what I find is that, instead of talking with a talk therapist and analyzing, oh yeah, this person has borderline disorder and that person is narcissistic and that person is empath and OCD and anxiety, depression, instead of slapping labels and, even cancer is a label, right? Instead of getting stuck on this 3D label, is what if we can go to a higher dimension where there's only oneness?
True.
And so, because I'm a nerd and, of my 4 science degrees, I'm always hacking. What is the shortest, fastest, easiest way to heal? Yeah. And so what I have concluded is, why even bother in the human realm when you can just have like the least painful experience if you go there? But then I also realized not everybody is open and ready for the highest kind of healing. And that's why we get to meet people where they're at. Like if you want to talk about your childhood trauma, let's talk about your childhood trauma. You want to talk about your rape, let's talk about your rape. I'm here to hold your hand and listen to you in the 3D realm. And I'm able to do that because it's like I have a central bank behind me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Thank you for sharing. It's so fascinating. I'm definitely going to have to buy the book. Yeah. There's a lot of wisdom there, and I feel like everyone can learn something from you for sure. And what are your 5 top tips for someone who wants to release trauma from the body, but they don't really know where to start?
Perfect. So I call this the 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, and 1 year plan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So let's say you're having an anxiety attack and you really feel like, it's suffocating. I can't even breathe. Like, I just want to, maybe even take a knife and slice my chest open because I can't stay inside this body any longer. So that's the 1 hour plan. So the 1 hour plan is, know your support network. Ideally you have 7 friends that you can call any hour of the day, who will come over and hold your hand and cuddle you and hug you and tell you you're okay, maybe bring ice cream or chicken soup. And if you don't have that, then maybe you have like a national suicide hotline, something like that. So that's a 1 hour plan. The 1 day plan is to go get acupuncture, because literally our body is like the pipes. So if you're having this really huge anxiety attack, it's because your toilet is not flushing. So go hire a plumber who's going to move all that junk out of your body, flush your toilet, and you're going to feel immediately better. Like, everybody literally go get an acupuncture. Like, have an acupuncturist ready to go. So, and whenever your trauma comes up, you have this ready to deploy. Okay, the 1 week plan is to go find either a talk therapist or a life coach. The reason why I say this is because people say, hey, Winnie, can you help me lose weight and do acupuncture? I said, yeah, but if you're going to eat 21 cheeseburger, I'm not going to be able to overcome that, right? So the value of a talk therapist or a life coach is they're going to reprogram your mindset. So that's the 1 week plan. And maybe try antidepressants or, some kind of meds, because there's no shame getting help and taking medication. You can always take medication and wean yourself off 6 months later. And if you have trouble, like, you can message me, I'll help you wean. Okay. So 1 month plan. The 1 month plan is to start doing things like, yoga classes and dance classes, instead of really stuck in the me thinking, right? Like, I'm in so much pain. It's like, just go out, have some fun, right? Go to the beach and have dinner, watch a movie, just go out, have some fun. And then finally, the 1-year plan is to really cultivate, meditate, read the Bible, do Taoist, Buddhist, Hindu meditations, go find out about the spiritual world, because that is where you're going to learn the truth of who you are, and you can graduate from all of the suffering.
That's so fascinating. Very powerful 5 top tips. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. What are you most grateful for?
I am honestly most grateful for you and also everybody who's listening. It's really funny because my core trauma is I feel that nobody wants to listen to me. My parents didn't listen to me. My ex-husband of 19 years didn't want to listen to me. My kids don't want to listen to me. So literally going to podcasts is like therapy for me. Oh, somebody wants to listen to me. So I'm really grateful to you and everybody who's listening.
Oh, bless you. And what shines your inner light?
What shines me in the light?
What shines your inner light?
What shines my inner light? I don't know. It just takes a second. I just close my eyes and smile in my heart, and it's like an on-off switch. It's just bing, and then that's it.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Winnie, for just being yourself and, being brave to really listen from within and trust what you're here to do and help so many people change their lives. Thank you for just being you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Wow. What an unbelievably amazing episode. I'm just blown away today. It's so powerful to really listen to your body and pay attention to where you need to forgive and what you need to forgive, because to be honest, life is too short. We all deserve to live in our divine, loving truth. Unfortunately, that's the end of the show. Before I leave, I want to leave you with this quote. The body stores the trauma of our lives, thereby keeping us stuck in the past. When we release the tension in the body and align ourselves with gravity, we take a new stand in life. That's a quote by Joseph Heller. Take care, my sisters. Bye. For more information about the show, visit www.gerdshandel.com. And remember, stay happy, stay healthy, stay lit.